In Indonesia, on the island of Borneo, in the flooded forest of Lake Sentarum National Park lives a giant bee, Apis dorsata, that builds its colonies under the branches of the large sacred trees. Waksa is one of the few local experts who still perpetuates this dangerous tradition, collecting at night this giant bee's precious honey from the tops of the trees. He is one of the last honey masters to practice this night harvest, which combines bravery and spirituality.
Sarang. Ada 20.
1,
1,
2,
2,
3,
3,
and 4 nests beneath.
4. Di atas lagi.
Above there are others. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Ada 20 sarang.
There are 20 nests in total.
This is where the honey is, more than 160 feet high, on the branches of this tree called the lalao, thought to be inhabited by spirits. Each tree holds 20 to 30 nests, and each nest is home to over 20,000 giant Apis dorsata bees, against which Waksa, the master of honey, will have to struggle.
Lalau ini memang dari
From the time of my grandfather and long before, this lalao has attracted the bees.
satu ini dah yang paling tua di sini.
This is the oldest tree here.
Kalau lalau
When a lalao has a root that overlaps another, like here, it's a sign that it's magic, and that's why it attracts the bees.
The honey harvest will take place in 2 days. It happens only once a year, during a moonless night at the most important moment of the flowering season. Waksa is one of Indonesia's last honey hunters. He lives with his family in Lanjak, west of Borneo. The villagers here are the Dayaks, the island's first inhabitants. They live mainly from fishing and selling honey. In the village, the honey master, his wife and children, share their home with the bees of the area. A presence that at first glance might seem like an invasion, but Waksa and his people have learned over time to live in harmony with these insects.
ini memang kebiasaan saya sendiri.
I eat honey every morning. It's good for you, especially if I'm tired or if I have a fever or if I have a cold. It's a natural cure.
Rasa makan obat juga. Kalau bagi saya tuh
Honey is important to us. Our family lives from it. It's our way of life.
Waksa's house is on stilts. Here, 6 months a year, the incessant rains flood the small portion of land that's accessible. No roads connect the villages. Boats are the only means of transportation. Today, before embarking on his perilous climb up the sacred tree, the honey master goes into the forest with his son and his cousin. The Dayaks watch over the trees. Cutting the precious wood is kept to a minimum. They know that the forest is vital for them. It gives them a massive blooming season from December to February that is essential to the bees. After 20 minutes of navigation, the team reaches its destination. They've come to collect honey from a unique nest, a traditional beehive called tikung. The tikung is a wooden board fastened to the branches 10 feet above the ground. This board, shaped by man, reproduces the form of the lalau's branches, the sacred tree. The Dayak adopted this method to make it easier to collect honey without having to climb high up in the lalau. But this honey is of lower quality and less abundant.
Bau kita matikan api dulu biar ada
We'll put out the flames by tapping it. That way the smoker will make only smoke.
tinggal asapnya saja.
Waksa, his son, and his cousin will have to confront over 20,000 bees ready to protect the honey reserves of their colony. The Apis dorsata is a wild migratory bee known for its aggressiveness. When the hive is disturbed, the bees simultaneously point their stingers outwards in a great wave motion. And if the intruder persists, all the bees will attack together. They must act quickly. First, use the smoker to push the insects away. Then quickly cut the wax head of the nest that contains the honey. And finally, escape.
Junaidi, how do you like the honey? It's sweet, huh?
Yes, it's very sweet.
Bunga putat tuh. Manis. Cuma madu tuh.
It's the honey of the punta flower. It's very sweet.
Every day in February, Waksa checks the progress of the flowering. He is attentive to all the indicators that determine the best time to harvest the honey of the sacred tree.
Bunga putat inilah yang paling
On the water, you see the red punta flowers that fell from the trees in the early hours of the day.
dia madu.
The punta flower produces the most nectar. The bees gather pollen from them in the early morning and then transform it into honey.
Jadi kalau bunga yang lain,
These flowers produce a lot of pollen.
tapi satu
There are also other flower varieties. There are many types in the forest, usually with only one flower per stem, but the punta flower branch holds a dozen flowers.
It's time to return to the village. Waksa knows that in the heart of the forest, the nests on the lalau tree are now bursting with wild honey. Tomorrow, Waksa will launch his harvest of the sacred tree. Before each harvest, Waksa unites the men of the family. He must organize the ascent of the lalau and the honey harvest that allows them to live for part of the year. This sacred tree has belonged to them for generations, although none of them has any official ownership document. It is the custom among the Dayaks.
We two heirs own the lalau, my uncle Muyadi and me.
ini
This is Muyadi, and this is Samadan,
itu Samadan, saudara saya.
my cousin who maintains the lalau all year long
Ini
and manages its development.
terus perkembangan lalau kita setiap tahun. Mau keluar dulu ya. Kita tu katibakan masalah pengangkat apa maya.
First, we'll start by removing all the weeds around the lalau.
Kira-kira kita kalau jam
We'll meet at the Lalau around 1 o'clock.
sedang deh.
Yes, that's good. We need to arrive early in the afternoon when it's better for pruning. When you arrive, you have to start working right away.
Perlu dibesar sikit.
Kalau nenek moyang kita banyak yang pernah hidup tu dulu. Karena tak
I've never climbed up the Lalau. Almost all our ancestors knew how to climb it. But I'm afraid of falling because it's very high and dangerous.
itulah saya. Aku nak berani naik tu. Kalau nenek moyang
I admire everyone who can climb it, but I don't dare. 2 ancestors fell and died. They were brothers, Sao and Nao. They fell and they died.
sampai sekarang
Today the tree is called Nao in their honor.
lalau nahak kan.
According to a Dayak legend, the Apis dorsata were able to colonize the Lalau's branches because they came to an agreement with the spirits of the forest. As its protectors, the bees have offered their honey for centuries. In the heart of the forest, Waksa and the men of his family have begun the preparations.
Untuk naik.
To climb up the lalau tonight, we're building a ladder called the pakau.
Yang mengajar saya.
It's my grandfather who taught me how to work like this.
Saya dulu.
This has been transmitted from generation to generation.
With these branches, found all around, they'll build a gigantic ladder in just a few hours. It must be over 165 feet tall.
Ini terus pakai
To make the pakau, we cut turu branches 15 feet long.
meter. Yang kita guna
We'll join them together in length with rattan. I think we'll need at least 8 or 9 lengths.
6 batang nanti. Ya. Tidulah belah nanga. Belah nanga sabang titi. Bismillah. Bismillah. Ku ngawai tangga mahligai lu. Tuan putri. Saya di sekeliling hutan sini, saya rasa
In this forest, I believe every lalau with a beehive has a spirit.
lebah pasti ada penunggunya. Setiap itu ada penunggunya.
Each lalau has a spirit.
Maka kita harus timang.
That's why I must charm it.
Setiap kita manjat, kita harus bertimang.
Every time we climb it, we must speak to it, to charm it, like it were a princess,
Putri. Biar dia
so that it won't bother us while we're working,
kerja,
when we're harvesting the honey.
kita ngambil madunya, dia tak ganggu.
Very high, above Waksa's head, the wax combs are filled up with honey. Waksa must wait for total darkness. It's after dark that the bees are the calmest. During the day, it would be too dangerous. He'd be attacked by all the nests of the lalau, hundreds of thousands of bees in a fury. But tonight, the honey master can't climb. The ladder isn't ready. He knows that tomorrow there won't be any room for error. One wrong move and he'd fall.
Kawut kan ngawut.
Sambal. Berani mi? Lihat suami manjat pohon.
I'm used to seeing my husband climb the tall lalau trees to collect honey.
Kami dah biasa di rumah. Tapi
This is our family's daily life.
malam
When he's harvesting honey at night, I can't sleep. I await his return. It's difficult. I ask myself many questions. Is he safe? Has he harvested a lot? It makes me think a lot. It's the big day for Waksa. But before leaving for the Lalau, he's busy making a final essential tool for security. The smoker, called a tibok.
Sekarang saya sedang bikin
I'm making a tebuk,
asapan.
which I use to make smoke which repels the bees away from the nest. This smoke intoxicates the bees. The smoke gives them a headache, and so they don't attack us. We mustn't touch them, only use the smoke.
Ini dari rotan.
I use rattan for twine.
Diraut.
We cut the fibers, then size them. We soak them in water so they don't break easily.
Ini diambil dari
The tebuk is made with the roots of the jamal tree or star anise tree.
kalau kita
We find these roots in the forest and then use them. Their sap is white.
dia enggak bagus asap.
If they're not completely dry, they won't make good smoke because it burns out quickly.
Jadi kalau dipukul
If the tebuk is very dry, the smoke will remain longer.
karena dianggap kami kayak yang kayak gini ini yang
We think this is the best kind of smoker. It doesn't hurt our eyes, and at the same time,
bikin mata pedas.
it doesn't prevent the bees from returning, even after we've taken their honey,
Bahkan
taken the head of their nest. 20 days later, they'll produce honey again.
20 hari udah mau madu lagi. Oke.
That's good. It's ready to use. I take the trenong and the ropes.
Sama ini beladang
This is my knife to cut the nest, the head of the honey.
madu, kepala madu. Ini
This is a rope to lower the honey that'll be in a basket.
untuk ngulu madu, namanya tali suso.
Berubah, hati-hati.
Take care of yourself. Waksa must hurry to join the team already gathered at the foot of the Lalau. These honey trees are maintained throughout the year to prevent them from being invaded by creepers. Bees do not like being crowded by vegetation.
Nangin bay. Oh, yummy. Nangin bay na. Oh.
Clearing the area has to be done precisely. Very few families continue this tradition, and the sacred lalaus are becoming increasingly rare. Waksa completes the ladder assembly without nails or screws to avoid damaging the tree. Only a few hours remain before nightfall. But before collecting the honey, nature's gift, he must obtain permission from the lalau's guardian spirit.
Bukan emas, barang emas. Oh, emas dikirim dari Semitau, bukan tepas. Bukan tepas, barang tepas. Lun kami miau lun, setinggut gantung.
The tradition is that the harvester sings prayers every step of the climb, and especially beyond 100 feet, because this is where the spirits live.
Kita tunggu sampai
We expect the moon to disappear so that I can harvest.
bisa manjat. Kalau bulan terang,
If the moon is bright,
ganggu kita.
the bees will bother me and bite me.
Idulah melah nanga.
Waksa now asks the force of the wind to come, to carry the bees far from him and save him from dangerous bites.
Kunait tangga, ku naik tangga mahligai lu, si Tuan Putri.
At the foot of the tree, the men of the family are busy with the bee smokers, the teboks. Waksa can begin the perilous ascent with bare feet and hands without protection. He depends on his agility and his prayers. He's now reached the first branches 165 feet above the ground. The harvest can begin. Like an acrobat, Waksa moves from nest to nest, filling the baskets and defying repeated assaults of hundreds of bees, awakened by the tebok's smoke and the light emitted by the honey-gatherer's lamp.
Baik.
Waksa's aerial work lasts for 6 hours. His concentration is intense to avoid falling. The bounty is progressively lowered down.
Saya rasa cukup bagus sekarang. Saya rasa cukup diterima oleh penghuni karena
I think it's good. I think the spirit accepted me because I didn't have any problems or disturbances.
bekerja di atas. Ada juga disengat
I felt safe and serene at the top of the tree while doing my job.
untuk 10, 20.
I was bitten, but not too much.
Sudah biasa.
10 or 20 bites.
Dianggap tidak
I'm used to it. It's nothing.
kalau untuk segitu.
Usually I get hundreds of bites.
Kalau biasanya itu ratusan. Kangap po, kangap.
Waksa and his family haven't slept at all tonight, and the next morning there's an excitement in the house. The men of the family are gathered to extract the honey, filter it, and then finally share it.
Panen tahun ini
This year's harvest is pretty good.
ada agak bagus. Sekarang
I'm cutting the combs to get the honey out of the alveoli inside the nest.
sarang untuk mengeluarkan madu dari dalam sarang.
The smell of sweet nectar in the house attracts bees from hives around their home. They're not aggressive, just curious and hungry.
Perbedaannya tikung sama lalau
The quality of lalau honey is better than tikung honey.
lebih tinggi. Tikung
There's more water in tikung honey. It's more liquid.
proses madu lalau ini ada agak mahal daripada madu
Lalau honey is thicker
karena madu
and therefore more expensive because it's more pure.
oh mutu-mutu setengah mati.
Once again, Waksa has earned his title of Master of Honey. He received the blessings of the spirits and was able to calm the bees, the Apis dorsata. The sale of honey will allow his family to live for several months.
Total keseluruhan
The total is 85 kilos.
dibagi
We'll divide it into 2 equal parts, one half to the climber, for me, and the other half for the ground crew. so that's 42.5 kilos each.
The migratory bees will now leave the lalau to go to the nearby mountains. Next February, the Apis dorsata will return to Punta. They'll pollinate the flowers and leave Waksa, the honey master, more of the precious nectar.